Hey y'all, it's Rick here with Uncommon Communion, and welcome to my 300th post on this Substack. Yeah, time flies, right? And it flew by again this evening, and that is why I am posting a video rather than a written post for Friday. Before I share with you what I was doing instead of sitting down here at the computer earlier than the time it is now, which is after midnight, it is already Friday. Let us remember that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of God and each other. I said before on an earlier video when I was kind of in the same situation that it is, for me, challenging to be able to create content and to be able to consume content. For me, mostly the consuming of content is reading, listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks. But recently, I have started watching some TV, which is something I really don't do that often. And of course, I did go to a movie earlier this week as well. But that has been taking me away from the time that it takes for me to write and do a written reflection for you. Before I talk about the content that I was reading first and then watching this evening, I want to echo something that Glenn Kirshner said in his video tonight. And again, I've talked about Glenn Kirshner. Highly recommend his Substack. I'll put a link to it here in my notes. I'm learning so much from him. He gives really good presentations almost every evening. He goes live and talks about law and the rule of law. He has a very good perspective. He was a DC prosecutor, so everything that's going on in DC right now is very personal, and he understands it. And he had a really good set of thoughts this evening about you might have seen this video, the man who was arrested for throwing a sandwich at a federal officer during the first day of the occupation now of DC. And Kirshner has a very good take on it. He's not condoning the behavior, but he talks about how charging a felony for this is really something that is not normally done. And also how the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, has biased a potential jury for this man if he goes to trial over this, over the charge. It's a 6-year penalty, 6 years in federal prison that he could get for throwing a sandwich at a federal agent. Yeah, that's where we are now. But at the very end of his podcast, Glenn said, and he's said this before, and I am going to take him up on it. He said, whatever social media platform you're on, and I'm not on a lot right now, this is kind of it for me. He says, make sure you just continue to bang the drum, drive the point home that we must demand that the Epstein, Trump, Maxwell files, because that's the three people that are all over those files. We know that the Epstein, Trump, Maxwell files are released to the public. We have a right to know. We demand to know. We need to know. And as Donald Trump does these distractions, DC, tomorrow he's going off to Russia, and that's going to be pardon my French, a shit show, I think, in many, many ways. And, we got to keep our eyes on the ball and the eyes on the goal. One of the things I'm going to do tomorrow, and I would encourage you to do this as well. I don't know if you saw this, but Thomas Massie, Representative Thomas Massie from Kentucky, he has the northern part of Kentucky, which, if you don't know the geography of southern Ohio, it's right across the Ohio River from Cincinnati. Covington, Kentucky is the main city there. It also happens to be where the Cincinnati airport is, which used to be a Delta hub back in the day. So, 15 years ago, if you were to fly Delta through the Midwest, that's where you would go. So Many of you probably have been through that airport. It was a very unique experience. But I digress. Representative Massey, and he's a Republican, and Ro Khanna, who's a Democrat from California, have announced that on September 3rd, right after Congress returns from the break that they started early in the House of Representatives because Speaker Johnson was afraid to have an up or down vote on releasing the Epstein, Trump, Maxwell files. Representative Massey and Ro Khanna are having victims speak out, speak publicly. And I think that will be a very important, powerful moment. So what I'm doing tomorrow, y'all, is I'm going to write a card. I got one right here. I had to dig into my drawer to find one. Got all kinds of cards that we've gotten free from different places. But I'm going to send him a card, and I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to encourage him and say thank you for giving this issue, giving this voice, and continuing to fight for the victims who demand justice. And so I encourage you also, whatever opportunities you have for conversations, whatever social media platforms you are on, put out that message. We demand the files, especially as other things take away attention, especially as other distractions arise. So what I was reading tonight is a book that I'd actually read once before, a novel. It's by Dennis Lehane, who is the author of Mystic River. You also might know him for Shutter Island, two really, really good stories, good movies made from them. And Small Mercies is just a really interesting and just a gripping book that I can highly recommend about what life was like in South Boston during a very pivotal moment, which was the busing, the forced busing that Boston and other places were required to do back in, I think, the early to mid 1970s. And it is a great story. And at the heart of the story is a mother's love and the fierceness that parents and mothers will do for justice. The daughter in the story of the mother, I'm not going to give away anything, but is the mom is pushed to a place where she it just really is pretty amazing. So finished that book, page turner, had to finish that one, and then I started season 2, the final season, the last season of Andor. And the way that they are doing the episodes is they're doing them in 3 or 2 episode story arcs. So they're keeping, basically it's like a small movie, 40-minute episodes, 3 40-minute episodes, kind of a small a movie, really. And this afternoon I watched the first episode of the second season, and then of course this evening I just had to watch 2 and 3 to complete the story arc. And it is amazing that the story and so much is just excellent about it. What I find, especially with season 2, season 1 came out I think in 2022, maybe 21 even, so after T-Rump 1, but before, and quite honestly, when most of us thought there was no chance in the world that he would regain power, season 2, even though it came out, even though it was obviously being written and produced in 24, it was clear that he could be back. And now episode 2 or season 2 just aired this past spring, so it's very recent. And it is, again, a reminder of what oppression looks like, the banality of it, and yet the harshness as well of it, and the entitlement that comes from, being the oppressor, being the one who is coming in and disrupting lives. And, one of the things that I think has just always been amazing about Star Wars is the way that, especially when they have the opportunity to really flesh out cultures, different planets, they definitely do that in Andor, and that's really very cool for me. In this particular story arc, there was a wedding, and they created the writers and the musicians and the costume and the visual design. Created this culture with rituals for a wedding, and that was very cool. In the midst of the other action and the drama of this rising rebellion, because we know where the main character, Cassian, ends up in Rogue One. And here we are seeing his journey and the things he needs to do, and the people around him, what they do to undermine and build this rebellion. And again, I think it's instructive for us, as we are faced with threats of, occupation. T-Rump is threatening other cities on the international stage. Again, who the heck knows what he is going to do with a war criminal, Vladimir Putin, who is in the United States now. He landed in Alaska earlier today on Thursday. This is what fascism, what authoritarianism looks like. And Andor helps inspire through great storytelling what it looks like to resist and to shake off the delusion that we have that that there's nothing we can do, and or that we don't have to do anything, that someone else will do it for us. So, all right, it is late. I want to wrap up. I have the day off tomorrow, or today, because it's after midnight, but I'm really looking forward to just getting some rest, sleeping in, and enjoying a day that I really don't have much planned. So I'm going to conclude with a prayer from the Meister Eckhart book that I have shared before. And this is what he says: "Do not be content with the God you think about, for when this thinking comes to an end, you lose the one you thought about as God. Trust that you already have God in your heart, for God is always already there, and in that trust you will find God shining out to you in everything in your life." All right, well, thanks, y'all. Appreciate your being here. Blessing and good. Be gentle. Be well.